All right, folks, red alert. We have a bombshell new report from the Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, which is exactly what it sounds like, a nonpartisan agency that works under Congress, Congress, of course, being led by Republicans, that's helped Congresses led by both parties shape their budget. This bombshell report confirms that Donald Trump and the Republicans have lied to your face when they claim that their proposed budget cuts to Medicaid would not affect Medicaid coverage. It is a lie. The nonpartisan CBO confirms it. Potentially millions of people will lose their coverage if this Republican Medicaid budget cut goes into effect. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. As The Hill and others are reporting, CBO, millions of people could lose insurance under the GOP Medicaid options. Okay, Mac McDermott also talking about it on Twitter. There it is. As Democrats have warned, new analysis from the Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office confirms that each proposal to cut Medicaid will lead to millions of Americans losing health insurance coverage. This is stunning. It is once again, we have known, if you know the Republican Party, if you know Donald Trump, if you paid attention at all to the figures, it was obvious that this would lead to hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of cuts. And now we have explicit confirmation. So let's take a look. Millions of people would lose health insurance coverage under various Republican options to cut Medicaid spending to pay for Donald Trump's domestic policy agenda, according to a new analysis the Congressional Budget Office released Wednesday. For instance, a cap Medicaid spending for beneficiaries and expansion population would save $225 billion and result in 1.5 million additional people being uninsured by 2034. Limiting state provider taxes would save $668 billion, but would mean an additional 3.9 million uninsured people by 2034. The analysis, requested, not created, simply requested by Representative Frank Pallone Jr. and Senator Ron Wyden, shows the difficult trade-offs facing Republicans as they try to pay for their party line bill, which among other provisions would fund an extension of Trump's 2017 cuts. Quote, this analysis from the nonpartisan independent CBO is straightforward. The Republicans' plan for health care means benefit cuts and terminated health insurance for millions of Americans who count on Medicaid, said Wyden in a statement. Republicans have tasked the House Energy and Commerce Committee, which oversees Medicaid, to find $880 billion in savings as part of the overall goal of slashing at least $1.5 trillion. A previous CBO analysis showed that number was not achievable over the next decade without cutting Medicaid. CBO's Wednesday report examined 5 of the Medicaid options Republicans have floated for the bill: eliminating the enhanced federal match for Medicaid expansion states, limiting state taxes on providers, capping federal Medicaid spending for the entire Medicaid population, capping spending for the expansion population only, and repealing a Biden-era Medicaid eligibility rule. House Republicans have not settled on any final decisions, but Speaker Mike Johnson said late Tuesday ending the enhanced match was off the table, and per capita caps for the expansion population were also likely going to be excluded. The report did not look at a work requirement, which a 2023 CBO report found, quote, community engagement requirements for people aged 19 to 55 would save about $109 billion over a decade at a cost of 600,000 people becoming uninsured. It would also shift $65 billion in costs to states. So let's be very clear. At least according to previous CBO analyses, this would also result in more than 500,000 people being kicked off Medicaid and would only save, at the most liberal estimate, $109 billion. And they're looking to cut or save nearly $900 billion. So this doesn't work. The math ain't mathing. They are objectively wrong on it, and they have lied to your face about it. But the number of uninsured would likely be larger in practice, it goes on to say. CBO assumed states would pick up the cost of 60% of the beneficiaries who lose federal funding. But most experts think states would not spend their own money. So again, that that 600,000 person figure, 600,000 people being kicked off Medicaid because of work requirements, would probably be substantially larger because states would not pick up the bill. Similarly, CBO on Wednesday assumed states would replace about half the federal cuts, which would lead to reduced payments to providers, limiting benefits, cutting Medicaid enrollment, raising taxes and cutting programs like K through 12 education and public safety. Quote, Trump has repeatedly claimed Republicans are not cutting health care, but CBO's independent analysis confirms the proposals under consideration will result in catastrophic benefit cuts and people losing their health care, said Pallone in a statement. Folks, this is huge. This is additional, explicit, unambiguous confirmation that Donald Trump and the Republicans lied. They just objectively lied. Medicaid is very popular. Medicare is very popular. The so-called social safety nets and entitlement programs are very popular. People rely on them. And we have no reason, we never had any reason to give Trump and the Republicans the benefit of the doubt because for decades, they've opposed. I mean, when President Roosevelt first passed Social Security, for example, Republicans opposed it. It's part of the conservative ideology, the conservative political platform, to oppose so-called entitlement programs. It's been part and parcel of the right wing since their inception. So we've had decades worth of reasons to believe that the Republicans were full of shit when they said, oh, of course we don't want to cut Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare. We have decades indicating that they wanted to do just that. We were never obligated to give them the benefit of the doubt here. And now, even contemporaneous evidence from nonpartisan budget scorekeepers under a Republican Congress once again prove they're full of shit. You have no obligation at all to take Johnson and Trump and all these elected Republicans at face value when they look you in the face and say, hey, when we propose $880 billion worth of Medicaid cuts, it's because we're looking to cut waste, fraud, and abuse. Your first question should be, where's the evidence that there's $880 billion worth of waste, fraud, and abuse in the first place? Show me the receipts. And then when they inevitably don't, because they can't, because there is no evidence of $880 billion worth of Medicaid waste, fraud, and abuse, then you should give them the finger and say no. And if you dare vote for it, we're going to vote your ass out in the next election. And folks, this is so important. If you're an eligible voter watching this, part of this obligation is on you. I'm sorry. Republicans feel that they can get away with this because they're not concerned about you. They don't fear you. They should fear that you will vote their ass out of Congress in the next election. Doesn't matter, red state, blue state. And here's the other thing. I know I probably don't have a lot of conservative viewers right now, but this will affect you too. These Medicaid cuts are not going to be cosmically divine to only screw over liberals and progressives and blue states. This is going to impact the poorest states in the country, which, spoiler alert, are overwhelmingly red, rural, Trump-supporting states. These are going to hit Kentucky and Alabama and Mississippi and West Virginia, just like it will hit blue states. And blue states, quite frankly, are in a better position to assume the burden. God forbid this happens, because blue states, on average, are richer and more healthy. This is going to totally screw conservatives and red rural states. You have skin in the game. You might hate the libs. You might, well, what about, the Eminem is wearing sneakers instead of high heels? What about the 3 trans athletes that exist at any? Fuck all that. Fuck it. You need to be looking out for you and your family. And whatever the green M&M wears, or whatever the 1 or 2 trans athletes in high school, whatever sports they may be competing in, it has no material impact on you. The people that you voted for are poised to totally rob either you or your loved ones, or perhaps both, of health insurance you need. Medicaid is also responsible for a shit ton of facilitating births and paying for neonatal care in this country. This could affect newborns and parents. Well, Trump said, fuck what Trump said. He's an inveterate liar. He's objectively the most dishonest politician in the history of America. That's simply a matter of fact. And when you have all this evidence to the contrary, it would be foolish for you to say, well, Donald Trump said. Donald Trump says all kinds of stupid shit that's objectively disproven. And Donald Trump said he would end the war on day one. It hasn't happened. Donald Trump said he would cut prices, your energy, gas, and grocery prices. It hasn't happened. Trump is wrong a lot, and he lies a lot. And the evidence sits squarely on one side of this. which is that these cuts are going to cost people, millions of people, their Medicaid insurance. And it is incumbent on you, eligible voter, you, constituents of Republicans, be you liberal or especially conservative, to make your voices known and say under no circumstances, none, should they back a bill which results in Medicaid cuts. You should insist that they ditch this entire program. You need to make it clear that you are prepared to vote them out of office, and therefore they should fear you far more than they should fear Donald Trump. And until that happens, this shit is increasingly likely to happen, despite the evidence that they are lying to your face. Sorry to get so blunt, but it's time for a really honest conversation. It's up to the voters. It's up to the constituents. Make noise and make it clear. If they follow through with this, there will be a blue wave in November, the likes of which they have never seen. You will make the Republicans a permanent legislative majority. And not only will this shit be reversed, but we'll have Medicaid for all. We'll have Medicare for all. We'll have Social Security for all. Make them fear you in terms of the electoral consequences. That's what you should do, because you're about to get screwed by them. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.